I'm Jack Bradley, filling in for Steve Lance tonight. A historic face-off tonight between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump. What strategies the two are taking and what their debate performance could mean to the race. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao, who's on the ground at the debate spin room in Philadelphia. Good evening, Iris. What are we expecting to see here in just a few hours?
Good evening to you, Jack. So in just a few hours, we'll see former President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris debate for the first time, if not perhaps the only time before the November election. The stakes are very high, in particular perhaps for Vice President Harris, as that's going to be her first time really facing such a large audience nationwide to explain and potentially defend her policy platform, which was just recently announced. Meanwhile, for Trump, it's been his 7th presidential debate already, so his performance, meanwhile, is also already in the know, so the stakes for him could be slightly lower in that case. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign has been explaining to reporters about the Trump strategy going into this debate, which is to target Vice President Harris's record not only as the VP in the White House right now, but also her record as the Attorney General, the District Attorney, and what they call a liberal record. Here's the new video that the Trump campaign just released today. Watch.
What would you do day one?
There are a number of things on day one.
On day one priority.
Ready on day one.
Kamala, day one was January of 2021.
Day one for Kamala was 3.5 years ago. Why hasn't she done it?
VP Harris, meanwhile, is expected to use her experience as a prosecutor in the past to target Trump and also to explain more in detail her economic policies, her foreign policies, which are just starting to be known by the public. Meanwhile, today, just earlier, the Harris campaign invited 2 former staffers from the Trump administration in the past to talk to reporters here in the spin room before the debate, talking about how they worked for Trump, have known him, and would now vote for Harris because that's a better choice for what they call moderate and normal Republicans. Here's a part of our gaggle just earlier. Watch.
Do you think Vice President Kamala Harris's public values are moderate?
I trust her to protect our alliances. I trust her to stand for all American people, not just a marginal portion of the population.
She's going to be focused on issues that matter to the American people, and people are going to do a comparative analysis about what's best for the country.
So there you have the Harris campaign not only trying to reach out to its own base, which are Democrats, but also to expand their base throughout this debate, both by introducing herself to a larger audience, but also reach out to potentially moderate or what they call moderate Republicans who might not be voting for Trump. Back to you.
Iris, definitely a lot to look forward to here tonight. What have both candidates been saying about the debate itself so far?
Right, so Vice President Kamala Harris has said that she expects Trump to lie and use his old playbook during today's debate. Meanwhile, Trump has been casting doubt on not only VP Harris's ability to answer questions and face questions, including ones from the media, but also he's been casting doubt on ABC News' and this network's credibility itself by saying that Vice President Harris might get questions in advance. While we know that might not actually going to be the case, as the rules are that first, the 2 candidates are going to have their mics muted when they're not speaking, no notes, no talking to staffers during the commercial break, but also no questions given in advance. Jack.
Definitely a lot of big names there. Thank you for that update, Iris. And here to discuss the types of strategies the candidates could use to win over undecided voters is political strategist Libby Krieger. Libby Krieger, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Now, tonight's presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in Philadelphia is a pivotal moment in the race. Now, Pennsylvania is a key battleground state with more electoral college votes than any other key swing state here. Last month, Trump said, if you win Pennsylvania, you win the whole thing. How true is that in the current stage of the election?
I absolutely agree with former President Trump. Whoever wins Pennsylvania, I believe, will win the election, not only because it's the biggest swing state in terms of the Electoral College, but I think it represents a microcosm of where the United States is at. 2016, Donald Trump won. 2020, Biden won. And the voters there in Pennsylvania, it's very split as a state. You have the liberal cities, but you also have a lot of blue-collar workers, which it seems to be where the Republicans and Democrats are fighting over the base this time around.
Now, Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz have been said to be prepping Trump right now. And what do you think his team is advising, and how can Trump win over the undecided voters while staying on message?
Well, you see, Americans have a unique opportunity this year because they know what a President Donald Trump administration looks like. And they also know what Biden-Harris, what that administration has looked like because they're living it currently. So if Donald Trump can stick to the policy issues and not be drawn in by Kamala Harris trying to get him to personally attack her, then I think he'll do really well sticking to those policy issues like the economy, inflation, and the border, which he polls tremendously well over Kamala Harris.
Now, Harris's honeymoon phase is said to be ending, and Americans are still seeking some clarity on her policies. She did put out a sheet on her campaign website that listed many of her policies, but a lot of Americans, according to polls, still don't know compared with Trump. Now, what's her path forward here? What strategies do you expect her to employ in this debate?
Tonight, I think we're going to see Kamala Harris trying to push Trump to attack her so she can have a moment like she did with Vice President Pence saying, "I'm speaking, Mr. Vice President." So if she can draw Trump out to get off of his message, to be not be very disciplined, to stay on policy issues, I think that's how you'll see her do really well. Now, she's been prepping for the last couple days, day in, day out, with even some members of her team dressing up as Donald Trump. So I think there's reason to believe she could do well tonight, but her strategy will definitely be to make Trump kind of push her buttons, push back and forth a little bit, and try to draw him out of his policy.
Interesting. They're dressing up as Donald Trump. So as far as Pennsylvania, how will Pennsylvania's economic challenges shape this election? And given its lower July unemployment rate and historically lagging economy when compared to the rest of the country, when Harris and Trump's policies on the economy are put side by side, what are voters looking at?
Well, all across the country, you see Donald Trump pull much better on the economy and inflation. And I think when you can even go back to energy policies as well, where Kamala Harris back in 2019, 2020, when she was running in the Democratic primary, said she would be supportive of banning fracking. And that's an issue that Pennsylvanians, especially Western PA, is going to take a closer look at. Those blue collar workers are really going to determine whether or not Donald Trump or Kamala Harris win those 19 electoral votes and potentially win the presidency.
Now, as the candidates near the election day, almost 50 days out now, they often shift more toward moderate positions to win over the undecided voters. How much of what Trump and Harris are saying do you think is political strategy versus genuine plans for when they govern in office?
Well, you see, Donald Trump has always been a bit of a moderate. You look back over past decades, he's never been a staunch conservative. Yes, he's taken some more conservative issues and he's in the Republican Party, but he's never been a Bible-thumping conservative. And when you look at Kamala Harris, she's always been a radical progressive. Even nonpartisan fact checkers labeled her as the most liberal senator in her time in the Senate. And Bernie Sanders also went on the other day and said her policies are still progressive. She's just being pragmatic about this to win the election. So I think you can see there's a lot of dishonesty coming from the Kamala Harris campaign about shifting her to be a moderate when actually she's going to govern as a radical progressive if she gets in the office.
As far as Trump, how can he connect more with suburban Nikki Haley type voters, and how can he change his strategy and build support within this key voter group?
You know, where I think we've seen Donald Trump fail in the past is whenever he gets too wrapped up in personal vendettas or calling names. He's very strong on the issues, and that's what these suburban voters care about. They care about paying for groceries. They care about practicing their faith and feeling safe in their communities. And if he can just stick to what he did as president, bringing robust economic circumstances back to this country, and inflation and bringing safety back with the southern border, I think those voters will be drawn to him. So he really just needs to be disciplined on his message and his policy.
Libby Krieger, thank you very much for your insight here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And now, with the presidential debate just hours away, do voters have a winner in mind? NTD's Sam Wong was out at the National Mall to find out which issues matter most to Americans in this election.
Who are you rooting for, and who do you think is going to come out on top?
We're rooting for team not going back. We're rooting for Harris and Walz tonight, absolutely.
I'm supporting President Trump.
Trump should, but just because I don't know. I hope she performs better than she does other places.
I hope Vice President Kamala Harris comes out on top.
I think she's going to make a good case for her presidency, and I wish her all the luck because she's getting my vote.
Whatever happens, it'll be a very big changing point for the nation. I'm excited to see but I think both have very, very chance of winning, though.
I feel the same way. I'm going in tonight just kind of seeing what both have to say, and I don't know if tonight will be the decider, but tonight will definitely be a big part of my choice in November.
And what are some of the top issues you hope the two candidates to address tonight?
Well, of course, there's always the economy, there's the immigration, there is our place in the world.
Who's going to maintain our democratic society here in America? I think that's very important to all of us.
I'm not really sure. I'm just got to wait and see what happens tonight.
The economy, the border, spending too much money overseas instead of spending it at home, taking care of the veterans and homeless.
I mean, the average mortgage was like $1,800 when Biden took office. Now it's like $3,200. Groceries are through the roof. I don't know how people live.
Well, I'm pro-life, and there's 10 commandments. Thou shalt not kill. A mother is special. A child is a gift. And us men in this world need to take responsibility.
Whichever president becomes the new one, I would definitely like to see them try and unite both sides, play both fields a little bit.
Fiscally, I'd hope, taxes go down, prices for groceries go down. I hope, I can, afford to live in America for a little bit longer,
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.